Hey friends, welcome to Sabbath School Daily, where we have been studying from this lesson right here, Ephesians. This week we're studying from lesson number 10, which has the title, Husbands and Wives Together at the Cross, and today is Wednesday's lesson that has the title, Love Your Wife as You Do Yourself. I'd like to provide a little bit of context before we go into the rest of today's lesson. History has been very harsh on women. From the most ancient of times, we see that women have been abused, they have been mistreated, they have suffered at the hands of men. This is not opinion, friends. This is historical fact. Women have, for the longest time, been treated as more object, more property, than as human beings. And this, again, it's a very broad reality. If you go back to most ancient societies, you'll see that that is the truth. That was certainly the truth in the ancient Greco-Roman world. Back then, there was a concept that the lesson calls pater familias, which was the father of the family. And essentially what that meant is that the father of the family had in his right to treat his family as he saw fit, beating, abusing, even killing in some instances. Although, as the lesson points out, this was frowned upon later on by societal opinion. However, it is also the truth that women didn't have the best lives. They went through horrible things at the hands of severe and brutal husbands. So in this text, I want you to remember that the world that the apostle is dealing with, the world that God is revealing this knowledge to the apostle, is not the same world that we live in today. It was a very different world for all parties involved. And so what we're going to do is extract the essence, extract the meaning that transcends the context and that does apply in our life and does apply in our time. But here we see that the apostle, he is providing a change, a switch, a new reality, not the one that they were used to of beatings, of being harsh, of being severe. He's presenting the reality of treating your own flesh, which is your wife, your own flesh as Christ treated the church, as Christ loved the church. Here he presents an argument, which is that you're not going to inflict pain, you're not going to inflict hatred or abuse on your own flesh. No one does that in their right mind, as the lesson puts it, and that's very true. And so that remains true for husbands and wives. The husband, he should treat his wife as himself, loving, caring, as the text tells us, nourishing. Again, I want to read for you verse 25 through 29 that says this, Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. You remember what we studied about yesterday, the two past days actually, Monday and Tuesday. What was that love like? Here we see that Christ, he gave himself for her. What a stark contrast between what the reality of the world was and what the reality of God is. Here you see what God intended to be the reality in the lives of these Christians. Verse 26, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word, that he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. And finally, here, verse 28, that makes so much sense in the context of what we're talking about today. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. Here you see presented in one of the clearest ways the reality that when we get married, when people get married, they become one flesh. Husband and wife, one flesh. That's what the text is telling us here. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church. So you see again the argument, if you love yourself, if you love your body, you nourish it, you cherish it, you treat it well. And so since in marriage, husband and wife are one flesh, you treat well, you nourish, you're kind, you consider their feelings, you consider their sentiment, you consider them. And so here we find the best form of love, which is again a two-way street, where each individual is in the reality of marriage caring for the other person's joy and happiness. When I care for the joy and the happiness of my wife, and she cares for my joy and my happiness, it's a lot better because then we're not caring selfishly for ourselves. That's what the apostle is arguing for here. So friends, when it comes to the love between husband and wife and husband, as presented in the book of Ephesians, you need to understand the text is not promoting misogyny, it's not promoting sexism, it's not promoting unilateral submission, it's promoting the love that Christ offers to the church. I hope you understand that, because so many people are experts at taking one verse of the Bible, two verses of the Bible, extracting it from its meaning, extracting it from its context, and then twisting it in a way where the Bible then seems, and ultimately God then seems, to be some kind of patriarchal, misogynist, sexist being, when it's the opposite. Here, look, if you go and study history, you'll see that back then, there were several conversions to Judaism. Right? This is before Christianity. You'll see that so many Gentiles became proselytes of the Jewish religion because it offered so much more nobility of life, so much more nobility to especially women who are used to being betrayed, used to being beaten, used to being abused by their husbands in the world, out there at large, that when they came to Judaism and later on into Christianity, they were treated as human beings with value, with worth. Here more than ever, you see the apostle bringing this to the forefront of Christian life. This has nothing to do, again, with submission, with unilateral submission, unilateral subservience. No, this is the depiction of a true and healthy relationship. I hope that that's what you get out of today's lesson. We're going to continue talking about this tomorrow. Please remember to like, to share, and to subscribe to our videos. We release one every day. Please also remember to comment down below if you have a question, if you'd like to interact with me. That'd be great. And I hope to see you in here tomorrow for another Sabbath School Daily.